Now, imagine leaving your family behind to seek work in a foreign country, driven away by poverty and desperation, only to find that when you get there, you lose your job. And if that's not bad enough, imagine too not being paid for 10 months and being left in a ramshackle camp in the desert at the height of summer. Well, that's exactly what happened to 38 migrant workers in the United Arab Emirates. Dan Nolan has the story.
Abandoned by their employer, forgotten by government authorities, these are the forlorn faces of Dubai's tough economic times. Their camp in the dusty back blocks of the neighbouring emirate of Sharjah has had no electricity for 2 months. The 38 men from Pakistan and Bangladesh have barely enough food to survive and haven't received their $220 per month wage for 10 months.
And now you use this area for cooking?
Yes, cooking.
The owner of the camp also hasn't been paid and has told them they'll be evicted on Sunday.
Our families are starving back home, but when we have nothing to eat, how can we send anything back home to our families? They keep telling us to just come home, but we're stuck here.
Staying alive with no electricity in a desert where temperatures reach 50 degrees Celsius is no easy feat. At night time, they abandon their cramped rooms to sleep on mattresses on the roof, where the evening air is a little cooler. Anyone who's ever visited this region during summer would have some small idea of just how desperate this situation is. But for these workers, there is one worse fate than this: heading home without their unpaid wages, which would mean the last 10 months they've spent slaving away on construction sites would have all been for nothing.
I have a dog. I wouldn't treat my animal that way, the way human beings treat these other human beings. These men did not come here to beg. They came here to work very hard, to work very honestly, to support their families back home.
Saheh Sheikh is a British Pakistani mother of 2 who spent the past 4 years providing food and medicine to the more than 1 million mostly South Asian construction workers building the United Arab Emirates. These workers say their Indian employer, Joseph Sundaramani, fled the country in February, but the UAE's labour laws prevents them leaving without their employer's permission. Despite registering their abandoned status in a court in March, they've made no progress other than to receive new passports to replace those they claim were destroyed by their employer.
You can't treat the men in a fair way. Sure, your company's going down under, that's understandable. It's very sad for you too, for the company too, but you could at least send the men home, give them their ticket home. It doesn't cost much.
I would like to say at the outset that these are limited cases and there is no such phenomenon. The total number affected is a few hundred workers out of 1.9 million in total in the construction industry. There are about 50,000 companies in this sector. There is no such phenomenon.
Another camp nearby, housing 400 abandoned workers, has received better news. These men are thankful for Saheh Sheikh's efforts to get their passports returned, as well as a plane ticket home and $1,000 in unpaid wages, courtesy of UAE's Labour Ministry. But Abdul Malik does not want to fly home to Bangladesh, as he still owes more than $2,000 to the loan sharks who financed his trip here. My family has no money, he tells me. If I go home, I'll get beaten up, or the loan sharks might sell my 2 daughters as payment. I have to stay here. Remarkably, most of these abandoned workers plan to return, hoping a different employer will deliver on that tantalising dream of a better life. Dan Nolan, Al Jazeera, Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates.
Well, it's estimated that millions of workers from Asian countries are employed in the Gulf, often earning as little as $150 a month. The UN has called for an end to the sponsorship system used to employ migrant workers in the region, saying it exposes them to potential abuse. For example, employers regularly confiscate workers' passports, which is illegal under international law. And workers can often spend years repaying fees to employment agencies in their countries of origin. Well, Azfar Khan is from the International Labour Organization. He's a specialist on migrant workers' abuse in the Gulf. Good to have you with us. Now, it is the case, isn't it, that one of the major contributors to the hardships of workers is this sponsorship system. It means that workers cannot change jobs and they can't even leave the country without their employer's permission.
That's right. I mean, the sponsorship system is behind many of the abuses that are suffered by the workers, and the ILO has been pressing the countries, particularly in the GCC, of revamping the system. Some progress has been achieved, but a lot needs to be done still.
When you say a lot needs to be done, I know that there have been some changes in the UAE and Bahrain. Are governments particularly receptive to pressure to change the sponsorship system, because they don't seem to be in any hurry to do so?
It depends. I mean, you see, the thing is to what extent they identify this as a priority. In the UAE, the Ministry of Labour has taken steps, and it needs to be commended for the steps it has taken in introducing a wage protection system. In Bahrain, for example, the government has taken steps to basically remove the most restrictive elements of the kafala system. And I think that is a good step. I don't know if it is going to disappear in its entirety, but at least that's a step in the right direction.
But it does seem, doesn't it, that these workers have very little legal protection. Even when there are laws in place that are designed to protect them, they're simply not being implemented.
That's right. You see, the problem here is that if you look at the labor law of the UAE, it's fairly encompassing, and it does provide adequate protection to the workers. But the problem is with the policy incoherence, I should say, because the Ministry of Labour is responsible for the private sector and only 50% of the private sector at best. It does not control the workers coming into the five-star hotels or top-end tourism, nor do the domestic workers come under its jurisdiction. The workers working in the free zones are also not under the jurisdiction of the Ministry of Labour or of the Federal Immigration Services. They come under the immigration services of the particular emirate in which the free zone is situated. So this creates kinds of conflicts, and to bring this all under one umbrella is very necessary, and I think the Ministry of Labour is the right place where this needs to be done, but this is an executive decision.
Okay, what about the unscrupulous recruitment agencies who make a lot of money out of these people? I mean, they're paid thousands by these people to come over. Why aren't they more regulated?
That's true, because a lot of these recruitment agencies, you see, the abuse of the worker essentially starts in his home country, where these unscrupulous agents sort of prey upon them. There is a system of free visas in the UAE and in the other GCC countries. Now, there is no established basis on which these visas are given. What happens is that the workers coming under these visas are then subcontracted out. They're quite prone to trafficking, and they're subcontracted out to different construction projects or in agriculture.
But of course, I mean, trafficking is a huge priority for the United Nations. Why is there not more pressure on the governments where these workers are coming from, on India or Pakistan or Nepal or the Philippines or wherever? Why is there not more pressure on them to take action against these recruitment agencies?
There has also been a realization of their nationals being subjected to abuse in the UAE or in the GCC countries, and the UAE Ministry of Labour has now started a pilot project where it wants to streamline recruitment procedures. It's presently doing so in collaboration with the government of India and with the government of Philippines. And we hope that something emerges from that, so that we can at least streamline these recruitment procedures and have proper guidelines for the monitoring of the private employment agencies, both in the countries of origin of these migrant workers and in the countries of destination.
Yes, well, let's hope it does lead to some better conditions for these workers. Thank you very much indeed for your analysis there. Azfar Khan speaking to us from Beirut.